Good afternoon, and welcome to today's Victory Square Technologies webcast as part of the Planet MicroCap Showcase. It is now my pleasure to turn the floor over to your host, Shapeen Tajani, CEO of Victory Square Technologies. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thanks to everyone for tuning in for Planet MicroCap for arranging this. Before we get started, I'll just give a quick background on myself, which I think will provide some context to Victory Square. So I started in the online dating site, in the online dating space in the mid-90s out of my dorm room. And I saw how the internet was going to disrupt the way we access information, worked, played, and communicate. We became very good at driving traffic and converting that traffic into paying users. And during the 90s, the online dating space was one of the few early internet companies that actually, made money and was easy to expand across geography. So we started to use the cash flow from our business to buy, build, or invest in other technology companies that either solved a pain point in our existing business or that we could drive users from one site to another. Back then, we didn't really know what to call that business model. Today, we refer to it as a venture build model, which is kind of the core of Victory Square Technologies business model today. So Victory Square was actually created in 2017. Our mission was to democratize access to the next tech, companies, next best tech companies before they were, tech giants, and give investors early ground floor access to these companies. Our shareholders get access to a diverse portfolio of over 20 companies in key sectors such as digital health, gaming, blockchain, augmented and virtual reality, cybersecurity, and cloud computing. We're a publicly traded company trading on the Frankfurt Exchange in Europe, the OTC in the US, and the CSE in Canada. So let's get started. I'm going to go to slide 3. So there's a quote by a famous science fiction author, William Gibson, and he says, "The founders who live in the future have the best chance of winning big." At Victory Square, we believe that extraordinary performance comes from seeing things that other people can't see. And over the next decade, we believe that we're going to see disruption across every industry. Disruptive tech that cuts across sectors, geography, and markets. Disruptive tech that creates rapid cost declines and stimulates growth over extended time horizons. And we've seen this in the past, with the introduction of steam engine and electricity and railways and more recently, PC, the revolution, the PC revolution, the internet, mobile phones. But never in time have multiple innovations converged at once. And today, we believe that there are 5 multi-trillion-dollar innovation platforms converging all at once. So artificial intelligence, DNA sequencing, robotics, blockchain, and energy storage. And each of these platforms creates breakthroughs and opportunities. So as an example, with smart cars, smartphones, smart TVs, robots, they're all new innovations and technologies, thanks to, the breakthrough in battery technologies. So next slide. So, I think over the past 20 years, we've witnessed new giants emerge like Google, Facebook, Netflix, and Amazon. And more recent years, companies like Airbnb and Coinbase. And we've seen old giants, kind of wither away like Sears, Kodak, and Blockbuster. And, this might be a bit of a dramatic kind of slide, but, the reality is that the next decade is going to usher in a new breed of companies that will be seeded around the world. Leveraging new technologies to reimagine every industry as we know it. People will always need to eat, work, play, and connect, but what is changing is how they do that and how companies deliver those to customers. At Victory Square, we see, we look to identify this new breed of companies. So these companies that see the systems differently. So, obviously with the pandemic, when a crisis hits, we're forced to confront the truth about how our systems work or don't. So digital health was a big, emerged significantly because it showed the gaps and issues that we had in our current kind of health system. Companies that solve pain points. So looking around for problems that are not being solved well today, and companies that try to come up with a solution for the future. And this again could be around climate change in this, in the circular economy, or companies that are rethinking the customer experience, which we've seen a number of companies which we refer to as next generation internet that are really rethinking the way the customer experience should be. When you think about companies like Airbnb or Uber or DoorDash as examples, these are the types of companies that we're looking to identify that we think are going to be the next new breed of companies over the next decade or so. So moving on to the next slide, our investment criteria. So there are traditional things that are givens that we look at, the sector, the market opportunity, the company's technology or product, does it have traction, the skill set or experience and values and character of the management team. Those are all things that I think are kind of common and given in the things that we look at. But some of the X factors, really around the management team. In our experience, when you're investing or building, around a management team that's early in their business cycle, a big part of the investment is really that leadership team. The startup journey has been glamorized. It's not always a hockey stick curve up. There's tremendous. It's more so, I would say, related to a roller coaster ride. So we really look for the management team's ability to improvise, adapt, and overcome. And those are really kind of the X factors in the founders that we're really betting on. So next slide, our investment process. So how do we find these companies? How do we find these needles in a haystack? Well, we built the magnet, and we believe this is our secret sauce, which has taken over a decade by our team and relationships that we've had to really build this infrastructure. So our whole process starts by identifying a pain point in a large addressable market, or within our network, finding a company within our network, or a client, a large client that has a big pain point. Once we've identified that pain point, we then reach out to over 80 accelerators around the world. So these are 80 accelerators from North and South America, throughout the Middle East, India, and throughout Africa, to find the brightest entrepreneurs that are solving this pain point. And tech is borderless, so we're seeing amazing companies from all over the world, great leadership teams, and sometimes better entry points into valuations into these companies. Once we find that company, we work with it. So we use our network and our relationships and kind of roll up our sleeves and work with that company to validate their technology. Once it's validated, we start that process of scaling, commercializing, and monetizing. In the monetizing process for Victory Square, we would look at spinning the asset off, which we did with a portfolio company last year called Fans Unite, where that company can go public on its own. We can help them raise capital, conduct M&A on their own. And more importantly, from a Victory Square perspective, what it allows us to do is to liquidate some of our position, to dividend out to VST shareholders as one option. Or the second is to reinvest in, the emerging companies that we see coming into our portfolio to continue to compound, our growth. And using this investment process, we've combed through thousands of companies from around the world and assembled a current portfolio of about 20 plus companies that are in Victory Square today. So moving on to the next slide. So our portfolio, we have over 20 companies in our portfolio. There are three main sectors that we focus on, and all of the investments are really based around the quality of life. So improving the way people work, play, eat, and communicate. We can break these down into three categories. One is next generation internet. The second is digital health. And the third is around the circular economy or climate change. So with next generation internet, you're looking at companies in the artificial intelligence, deep learning, big data, cloud computing, IoT, cybersecurity, and blockchain technology, to name a few. And these are all innovations that are changing the way the world manages information, analyzes data, purchases and consumes goods, and communicates across the globe. The second big group is the digital health revolution. So, we've seen advancements in DNA sequencing technology, gene editing, CRISPR therapeutics, agricultural breakthroughs, and molecular diagnostics. And all of these innovations, we believe can help cure diseases enhance the quality of life by restructuring healthcare, agriculture, and pharmaceuticals. The third group is really around, we refer to it internally as the circular economy. So things that are tackling climate change and this climate emergency. And our survival as a species, will depend on us addressing this issue. And for us, it's not just simply an environmental issue, it's an economic issue. There have been estimates that this will be a $26 trillion opportunity. So not only are breakthroughs in this space and investment needed, for our world and for the planet for good, but it's a tremendous financial opportunity as well for companies that are first movers in that space. To the next slide. So to share some examples, of the companies, the first I'll talk about is immersive, which would fall under the next generation internet kind of grouping. So immersive is in the VR and AR space, so virtual and augmented reality. They're disrupting a serviceable market that's estimated to be about $35 billion over the next 3 years. Very strong team. They've already built and validated products for clients like eBay, Intel, the Allegiant Airlines, the FDA, Great Wolf Lodge, amongst others. This is a company that was fully incubated in VST as well, so it's a wholly owned subsidiary. They've had, 7 figures of revenue. They've had significant growth over the past couple of years, and this is a company that we recently closed a small financing on and will be public within the next 120 days. And there are comparable companies to Immersive Tech currently trading, which trade anywhere from an $85 million to a $300 million market cap. So we think that this is something that we've been incubating for a while that will really unlock value for VST and VST shareholders once it's spun out. The second company is a company called Game On. So Game On was a recent acquisition by one of our portfolio companies called V2 Games, which was wholly owned. So Game On comes out of Techstars, Philadelphia, led by a very strong team. Matt Bailey, who used to work for the Brooklyn Nets, is the CEO. And one of the other key members is a gentleman named Santi Jaramillo. Santi was also one of the creators of NBA Top Shots by Dapper Labs, which has been, again, dominating the media over the past couple of months, which is focused on the NFT space. So very strong leadership team, and then a rock star board that they've assembled in a great space as well. Really good partnerships, revenue, validation, and we recently closed the financing for Game On. We initially were only setting out to raise a small $1.5 million round as a private company. We ended up raising 5.8 for them. The demand was significant, and they'll be listed very, very shortly, which again will unlock value for VST. There's another company on this slide called Hydrate, which is in the digital health space within our digital health grouping. Hydrate is an on-demand and on-site mobile health, pharmaceutical, and wellness service provider. It's wholly owned by Victory Square Technologies. They've got a custom-built telemedicine service that allows users to book confidential health and wellness and or medical services at their home, hotel, office, or wherever they may need a discrete assistance. A range of services. So in addition to the traditional kind of telehealth services, they offer IV drip, Botox, COVID-19 testing and vaccinations, and other medical and Metaspa treatments direct to home. They've built up a network, over 10,000 health professionals across 50 states in the U.S. They've got a 503B pharmacy license, so they can do same day and next day prescription delivery. So very excited about that company and the prospects and just the digital health space, on its own. There are a couple other companies I'll mention really quickly that are on this slide. One I referred to earlier called Fans Unite. So Fans Unite was a company that we'd acquired a couple of years ago for 2 million Canadian dollars in an all-stock transaction. We ended up taking them public last year at around a $25 million Canadian market cap on the CSE. They're currently traded on the CSE, the OTCQX in the U.S. and Frankfurt in Europe. They're now, fully publicly traded. Their market cap is probably around 150 million Canadian dollars. They've raised, I think, just under 40 million Canadian dollars and conducted 2 large M&A transactions. Again, strong board, strong team, great space, cashed up. And for VST, again, it's a great validation of our model and thus as allocators of capital as they continue to grow and scale. The other one is a company called Covalent. which was incubated in Victory Square in 2018. Covalent's a leader in data infrastructure and in the blockchain space. They recently, about just a couple of weeks ago, raised a small round from Binance Labs and Coinbase Ventures at around an $85 million US market cap. And they're closing another round of financing, which was significantly oversubscribed, to be announced within the next week. So again, great companies, great spaces, great leadership teams, kind of all across the board. And this is just a small kind of sample of some of the portfolio companies within VST. So just moving on to the next slide. We believe that building a company is the ultimate team sport. We've assembled the smartest people and partners in a wide array of spaces, which we think not only gives us, Victory Square, a great competitive advantage, but a great advantage to all of our portfolio companies because we're not passive investors and we have material stakes and we're actively involved in our portfolio. Lending these advisors and these relationships that we have gives them a competitive advantage to help them grow and scale, faster. And some examples of these advisors and partnerships we have, one is the director for the Waterloo Institute for Machine Learning and AI. Again, there's a massive land grab in the AI space to get smart PhD students and advisors in that space. We have that by plugging directly with an academic institution and having that for not just ourselves but our portfolio companies. The head of BC Diabetes, so digital health again is a big focus for us, as is chronic care management. BC Diabetes is one of the largest chronic care management companies in Western Canada. So again, gives us a competitive advantage in that space. And then a number of CEOs in our portfolio companies that are thought leaders for their specific discipline. So this ability to collaborate and cross-market customers, advisors, and teams really gives VST, our entire ecosystem, a huge strategic advantage over others. Just moving to the next slide. So from a capitalization table, we have about 96 million shares out. Our current stock price is 63 cents USD. Current market cap of around 60 million USD, and we have inside ownership of around 26%. So management's aligned and incentivized. Myself and a business partner are the largest investors. We've invested over $10 million of our own capital to seed this, and have not sold a single share. And again, are aligned. We want to show new investors that we have skin in the game, and there's an alignment and an incentive for us to kind of grow and build this up. Moving on to the next slide. So, why invest in VST? Warren Buffett says it's not enough to invest in a good company, but it's your entry point. And we think that this is a great entry point for investors. On September 30th of 2020, we report our 9 months, which are our last audited financials that came out. Our year ends will be out shortly in the next week or so. But the last audited financials that came out, which referred to the 9-month period ending September 30th, 2020, I think we had just under $11 million of net income and an earnings per share of around 14 cents USD. So, and we know that Q4 we continued, to close the year out strong. So we believe this is a great entry point, and that we've got all the metrics for being a good investment for investors wanting to get access to this space. But the primary reason people invest is to make money. At Victory Square, we believe we're democratizing access to the next best tech companies from around the world. Victory Square shareholders get ground floor access to these companies. We're not investing when they're already commercialized. We're getting entry points early. All our portfolio companies are generally under 4 to 5 million Canadian market cap when we get in, if not earlier, if they're not incubated from scratch. We give investors access to a diverse portfolio of companies in sectors such as digital health, gaming, blockchain, augmented virtual reality, cybersecurity, cloud computing. So you're getting a diverse portfolio of a lot of themes, not just a one-trick pony. We've seen markets will go up and down, but all of these technologies, all of these themes, all of these sectors over time are going to be significant, and we give investors access to all of them. And again, investors get access to 23 chances to knock it out of the park. So they're getting a diverse portfolio and multiple chances to hit a home run with it. And lastly, in addition to just being a great opportunity, good entry point, alignment with management, incentivized management, we also think that that you can feel good about what you're investing in. Disruptive innovation can help transform and solve some of the world's most persistent problems. Good innovation investing focuses on technologies and companies that are likely to have a positive impact on the environment, our society, and the world's ability to create further innovations. That's why we think now is a great time for us to participate and share our story with investors such as yourself. So just moving on to the next slide, wanted to thank everyone, and I think we'll jump to the questions right now. So the first question, what are some of the company's growth drivers moving forward? So we, in the investment process that we kind of talked about, we have this 12 to 36 month time frame where we incubate companies, bring them through that model, and then get them ready to commercialize and scale. And in 2018 is when towards the end of 2017, early 2018 is when we brought on a number of those portfolio companies, which are all starting to hit their stride right now. So we think one of the biggest drivers is those companies are going to be spun off and unlock value for VST and VST shareholders, because the ones that are wholly owned are consolidated on our balance sheet, so they don't really show up as any sort of asset value for us. But once they're spun out and they're deconsolidated, we'll start to see that. So we think with Game On going public very shortly, and then Immersive Tech next, the growth of CNI, which is another Web3 company we have, which we sold assets to for stock in that portfolio company. We think that these are going to be the drivers that are going to validate our thesis of finding these gems early and building, growing, and scaling them and unlocking value, and really showing us as good allocators of capital. And our financials, which are our year-end 2020 financials, which are going to come out very shortly this month, I think are audited and are going to show fundamental numbers, which I think the market will really respond well to. So we think there's tremendous drivers, coming out and catalysts coming out soon. And then our Q1 2021 numbers are due out at the end of May. And again, we haven't, skipped a beat. This year started off just as strong as we closed last year off. So the next question, when is Game On going to trade? So we've submitted. So Game On was a portfolio company that we had, which we had a controlling interest in. We just closed a financing of 5.8 million Canadian dollars, which was oversubscribed. We've submitted all the listing statements, audit, and everything through the exchanges, and so we're expecting it to be listed very shortly. We are anticipating, end of March, early April, but I think the exchange has been overwhelmed with companies wanting to list and delays in COVID restrictions and getting their staff together to be able to review everything as promptly as they'd like. But we're anticipating to be trading any day or any week now. Next question, when can we expect for third-party valuations of the portfolio companies for the upcoming financials? Will all portfolio companies be given a valuation? So at the end of this month, our 2020 year-end numbers will come out. Unfortunately, the way we're accounted for, which is a model called IFRS, they don't put a value or don't give true value or fair value to investments that VST has either a controlling stake in or board control over. It only unlocks on our balance sheet once it becomes deconsolidated and we either drop our board seat or we go below a certain investment interest level, which I think, would have to fall below, 20%. And our whole model is to have board, to be active, have a board seat, be involved. So we're hoping to get some third-party analyst coverage after our financials are released to do to go under the hood and give the market, third-party kind of valuation on some of those assets. But I think we've seen a great community around VST of actuaries and analysts that have that have dove deeper into our portfolio companies, looked at comparatives, looked at the most recent financings of some of our companies to do some good DD. So there is a Discord channel that people can find where there's a great shareholder base we have that's done a lot of DD, not only on our parent company, but our portfolio companies to kind of provide that data and that information. Another question here. So name a few VST catalysts over the next 3 months. So I would say one of the biggest catalysts is our 2020 year-end financials, which will come out at the end of this month. The next one is, I believe is going to be Game On's listing, which will show the market again another example after Fans Unite of how good we are at finding these needles in a haystack, growing them, commercializing them, unlocking value, us as good allocators of capital. The third, I would say, is going to be our Q1 numbers, which come out at the end of May, which again shows that 2020 wasn't an anomaly, that we have continued and not lost the beat as we've continued to this momentum. And then Immersive Tech, which will be the next company to list, which again I think is another validation. Covalent's closing of their financing, within the next week or so, which I think will show another hidden gem kind of in the portfolio. And then we've got a number of other portfolio companies which came in, later on in 2018 and early 2019, which again in sectors like the DeFi space, the creator economy, clean energy, these companies that are starting to again hit their stride as well, which we'll be introducing them to the market as well. So I guess I'm getting a nod that we're hitting the tail end of our presentation and have to cut off. So again, just lastly, want to thank everyone for jumping in. Thank Planet Micro for giving us this opportunity, and all VST shareholders, thank you so much for your support and patience with us, and we'll do everything we can to make you guys proud. Thank you, everyone.